Well, guys, this has been definitely one for the books. Kendra and I have tried to go live now. I think it's been like 7 times, and it's not working no matter what we try. Of course, the one night when I want to do an interview and bring so much value to you guys, it's not working. It's not working the way I want it to, but that's okay. We're going to try this one more time. So before I bring Kendra on, our illustrious guest, I wanted to just give a brief introduction, kind of give you the lay of the land, what it is that we're hopefully going to be talking about tonight. So if you hop on, say hello. I was trying to go live from my business page so Kendra could easily share this to her page and all the things, but I'm really hoping that within our community, we're going to be able to do this live together. So it looks normal now, Jess, but we'll see. So what's been happening for those of you who didn't have the pleasure to see the craziness, when I brought Kendra on Dual Live with me, both of our faces zoomed into like here. Like this was the perspective. It was like my nostril, and then Kendra's like half of her face. It just, who knows? But anyway, what we're going to talk about tonight, I am so excited to introduce Kendra to you. She has been nothing short of a lifesaver for me. Some of you know the story. But when you are building your brand, you're building your business, have you ever gotten to the point where you're like, oh my, all I'm doing, I'm stuck in working on tasks. Like I can't scale. I can't expand beyond this because you're so inundated with just the tasks, just so many different to-dos that you feel like you're almost drowning, and you just feel like, if I could clone myself or part of myself or just get some help with this, I could move things forward. I could be further along. I could be less stressed. Have you ever felt like that? If you have, please let us know in the comments, because I know I certainly have. And Kendra, who is a virtual assistant, she's absolutely incredible. Her tagline is, and I wrote it down, helping marketing mamas create time freedom. And that's exactly what she's done for me. And I want her to share, her perspective with you all, answer some of the questions, the really good questions that you all had about virtual assistants, both looking for a virtual assistant, hiring, how to best work with a virtual assistant. What do they do? Like, how do you find the right person? And some of you were interested in, well, if I want to work as a virtual assistant and work with someone building a brand and a business and use my gifts to serve and help and make money doing that, how would I do that? So we're going to kind of talk about a combination of both of those things. I wanted to give you a little bit of background. So Kendra and I connected I think it's been about 7 months ago. I think 7 months ago. And originally, so again, some of you know the story, some of you don't, so I'm just going to tell you. About 7 months ago was when I was getting ready to launch the Influence, Impact, and Income Academy for the first time. So that's my signature program. It's a 12-week, 9-module program that walks you through my exact framework of how I've built everything that I built online. Like literally, it's all the things. And so I was getting ready to launch it, and that was something that was extra in addition to everything else that I was doing. And so I knew I needed help. I just already knew it without even knowing quarantine was coming, right? And then flash forward just a couple of weeks and we go into this situation where everyone's schedules are totally up in the air. There's no more childcare. There's no more school. We're homeschooling, all of these things. And so being able to work with Kendra, especially someone who is also a mama who kind of got the place that I was in and was like, hey, here, let me take this off your plate. Let me tell you what we can take off your plate, has been astronomically helpful. And so I'm really excited because I know there are many of you that are probably in the same position that I was in, and maybe you don't even know it. Maybe you don't even realize what could be possible for you as far as time freedom, as far as more freedom to create content, more freedom to create things that require your personality, that are really going to be the things that advance your influence, that advance your impact, and really grow your brand that no one else can do except for you. But if you have a stellar virtual assistant who gets it, who is organized, who is intelligent, all of the things, oh my gosh, holy moly, game changer. So let me bring Kendra on, and I want her to share with you her kind of journey into how did she get into this profession and all the things. So Kendra, I'm trying to add you on the. Hey, okay, it looks fine to me.
Yes.
Let's see if I'm gonna go on my computer and see if anyone's given any feedback on the size of our faces here, but
Yes.
hopefully we're doing
Hopefully
good.
they're little.
Yes, hopefully we're normal size. I don't see anything so far, so that's good. Well, thank you so much for being on here tonight, for sharing your expertise with us, for answering so many of these amazing questions that our community members had. I'm thankful for you times a million.
Oh, thank you.
But I was just giving a little bit of just my backstory as to my process of, oh, I need help. I need to work with someone. And
Yes.
you and I connected. But I would love for you to share just a little bit of your story. How did you get into the profession of being a virtual assistant and also helping other people learn how to be virtual assistants? Like, what's your backstory? I'd love to hear.
Yes. So basically, I worked in corporate America doing social media. So I did everything from kind of customer service on social to creating content, kind of all the things, and also handled like customer complaints. So a lot of angry people. And yeah, it was a lot of fun. And then I had my first little boy, and I like wanted to stay home so bad. I cried on the way to work like the first day, and it was just I couldn't leave him. So after about a year, I think he was about a year and a half, I finally figured out like, okay, we have to do this now or I'm never gonna leave. I'm just gonna keep doing the same thing and be sad. So finally we decided to bring me home, and that's when my husband actually suggested, like, why don't you use what you have and you can work from home, because I needed to still have an income, but something that was kind of like able to work around a kiddo. So this was the perfect fit because I can work around my schedule just like you work around yours with your little girl. And that's kind of just where it started. I came up with a name and just went from there. So
Awesome.
A lot of background in social media. So
yes. And I'm thankful for that. I'm thankful for all of your skill sets, but that's definitely one of them. Okay. So there's so many questions, you guys, literally so many questions. We're probably not going to be able to answer every single one of them, but don't worry. If you're not subscribed to my blog, so my blog email list, if you're in the group and you gave me your email address, you are, but we're going to put together a post with like all the questions and answers and all the things that will come out, I don't know, probably Friday. So if you're not subscribed, go to ashleysalmadati.com. There's like multiple ways you can subscribe. Do it if you're not. If you are, you'll get all the goods. But we're going to go over as much as we can tonight without being here for like 4 hours, because there is Kendra is a wealth of knowledge, and you all had a lot of really good questions. So let's start with, because there's kind of two sides to the coin as far as the questions people had. So let's start with as far as when someone is building a brand, they're building a business, and they're looking to work with a virtual assistant. These are some questions that our group members had. So I'm going to start with those, and I'm going to look. I didn't memorize the questions, so I'm going to look here.
No worries.
Okay. So first one, how do you go about finding a virtual assistant? So obviously with you and I asked my business coach for a recommendation, her top recommendation. She connected us. That was very well and convenient, but I honestly don't really know fully the answer to this. How do you find like, how do you, if no one makes a recommendation?
That is definitely the best way. Just personally, my clients, out of all my clients, I think I only have 2 that were not recommendations, like someone recommended me to them. So definitely asking someone who you think might have a virtual assistant, or who has a virtual assistant that you trust for a recommendation. That's for sure the biggest way. Another really good way, but is a little more tedious, is asking in like Facebook business groups, like a boss moms group or different things like that, to ask for feedback. And if you do that, you definitely want to make sure you have a good application ready so that you can weed out the people who just aren't willing to fill it out or whatever, because that's more of a task. But the best way for sure is just asking someone who you think may have one or who does.
Yeah. Yeah. That's what I did, because I knew, your business coach knows your business, and then they're going to be able to recommend someone who has the skill sets and background. Literally. Yeah. So, okay. All right. So I was on the right track. I'm kind of proud of myself.
Yes.
All right. Gold star. Okay. So what are some examples of things? And I think this was something that Kendra really helped me with, because I'm like, I don't even know. Like, what are some examples of things that a virtual assistant can take off of your plate? Like, what's kind of the range?
Yeah, there's so many things. And I think people think that it has to be like a big project or something huge. It doesn't. It can be as simple as, I don't know if you've seen in the group, sometimes Ashley will tag me and say, will you tag all the people in the group? Like something that simple that just takes minutes. Can be something that you hand over. It doesn't have to be a huge project, but those are great too. So just some examples are email inbox management, Facebook group management, like a community manager, creating content. So blog post, Facebook post, whatever social media post, creating graphics to go with your post, editing. There's just so much stuff. Email campaigns, marketing, like pretty much all the things that you do. If you're willing to, you can hand it over to someone else. And once you build a relationship where you trust that person, it's easier to give more stuff over. So pretty much anything.
Yeah. I mean, you guys, I mean, I literally can't explain to you how game changing it is if you can give over control. Because for some of us, like, you feel like, oh, delegating or outsourcing, like, how could I possibly let go of like doing these things? But I'm telling you, you will not be able to get further along unless you have help at a certain point. There's just only so many hours in a day and minutes. And like, it's just not possible. So yeah. Anyway, let's go on. I could go on and on about that. So what should you, and I have a little input on this question, so if you don't mind, I'm going to just give my 2 cents on this one. What should you look for in a VA? So my like short little 2 cents is someone who has some kind of, like, if you have a specific project. So for me, I was like, I need, when you and I talked, I'm like, I need help with my content repurposing process. Like, I've got to get this going consistently, but I can't do all the things and that to like fidelity the way that I want to.
Right.
And so I needed someone who had familiarity with blogging, with WordPress.org, like the platform, Pinterest, Facebook groups, like some things that would be involved in that. So if there was a virtual assistant who like had no clue about any of those things, it probably wouldn't be like the best fit. So I would just, from my perspective, if you've got a real specific like platform that you need to work on, just making sure that they have some familiarity with that. So you're not like, oh, let me teach you how to, you know what I mean?
For sure. And I think there are like little intricacies that you can teach, like this is how I like to word things or whatever. But starting from scratch is hard. So it's definitely good to say, like, not just I need a VA, but I need a VA that can help with these things. Or I work mainly on this platform. Like, I love Pinterest. Are you familiar with Pinterest? Kind of narrowing at least a little bit just to get started. And you can always add more tasks on. Like, Ashley, we are so far from the beginning of where we started. Now we do all the things. So, I mean, just because you ask them to help with one task doesn't mean you're stuck with only getting help for that. So just be willing to kind of like, just ask for help. If you ask, I mean, you'll never know if they can do it until you ask.
Yeah, totally. Well, that covered another one of the questions. So I'm going to skip that one. There were a couple of questions about what price range should you be looking at? Like, if someone is looking, and how do you know if someone's like way overcharging, or how does that work? What's reasonable?
Well, I think number one, it depends on your budget, obviously.
Yep.
But second of all, it depends on how specific they are. So if you're looking for someone who is just laser focused on this one very specific niche, I
Mm-hmm.
think that might call for a higher price point.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're looking for a general virtual assistant that can help with a little bit of everything, that might be a lower price point, just because they may not be laser focused and know all the things about this
Yeah.
one platform. So that's something to keep in mind. If you're looking for
Mm-hmm.
one very specific thing, then that might be a little bit more. But if you're kind of wanting general, then less, I would say.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. And I think, so to give you as an example, like if you are really wanting to like focus in on Pinterest and you want a
Mhm.
Pinterest manager, like a virtual assistant who's managing Pinterest, that's like their total expertise. They're probably going to charge higher than if you're working with someone
Mhm.
who's a general virtual assistant who can handle Pinterest, but they're not like just lasered in on that, you know? So
Yes,
is that
exactly.
okay?
Yes.
Okay. Speaking of kind of payments and technical stuff, someone had a question. Do you as someone who is building your brand business and working with a virtual assistant, would they need to write up a contract? Or how would that work?
Generally a virtual assistant will have a contract already. If they
Mm-hmm.
don't, you would definitely need to write one just for security purposes on both ends. I feel like you want to make sure that you're getting the work you need, and they also want to make sure that they're getting paid for the work that they're doing. So a
Mm-hmm.
contract is a must. And that's
Yeah.
something that you can find templates for online if you're needing to help like to do that
Yeah.
yourself for the first time. Not a huge deal, but definitely get something in writing where y'all both signed and dated it, just so that you know, like, this is it. Like, we're good.
Yeah. CYA, y'all.
Yes,
CYA.
yes,
um, so yeah, and Kendra, you had that. Like I didn't write
yeah,
up a contract. You had that. It was like,
exactly,
okay.
yeah.
So that was amazing. Um, okay, so this was a question about kind of turnaround time, and I think this is I would imagine this is just dependent upon the request made and dependent upon the virtual assistant's schedule and workload. But someone had asked, what's the typical turnaround time to expect when you kind of delegate a task? So what would
Yeah,
be, is it 24 hours, 72?
I think like you said, it really just depends. Like with Ashley and I, she'll kind of send me like, hey, can you do this by this date? Or can you, I mean, it really just varies. You can't give an exact. So it's
Mm-hmm.
just, you want to set that standard up front. If you're needing things like 24 hours, you need to tell someone in that discovery call or interview that that's what you need, because that is a more high demand kind of thing. So
Yes.
you may also be charged more for that.
Mm-hmm.
Ashley and I kind of have the great relationship where she's like, hey, I need this done this week. And she kind of gives me like the tasks
A
ahead of
range.
time. So I'm not like, yeah. So I'm not like, oh, shoot, let me like figure out what to do with all the children while I do the things. Like,
Yeah.
that's the best way, I think, is to like kind of have your stuff organized so you can hand it over and say, here, please get this back to me by Friday or whatever.
Yeah.
So it's not so rushed on their end either, because you want the best
Mm-hmm.
work. You don't want
Yeah.
it to be rushed. So I think giving like a few days at least is always good.
Yeah. Yeah. That sounds good. I think just having that open communication
Mm-hmm.
and yeah, just communicating. If there is something where you're like,
Yeah.
hey, I need this in 24 hours, just being, being respectful of your virtual assistant's time and that may not be possible. So,
Yes. And that's
um,
again a good thing to talk about up front before they're hired. You want to
yes.
lay kind of that groundwork at the beginning. So if you're expecting them to have that high turnaround or that quick turnaround time, you want to let them know that for sure up front, because that's something not everybody can do.
Right. And I feel like, as an aside, I feel like with Kendra and I, it's kind of funny because Kendra is like sometimes reminding me like, oh, did you still need that? I'm like, I do, but I'm not like organized. Like I haven't gotten my own self organized um, with how schedules have been so off and
Yeah.
crazy over the last few months. But the wonderful thing for me, I really enjoy working with another mom of littles who understands
Yes.
like, yeah, it's not really it's not really possible to do all the things the way that you want to do in this climate. So
Yes.
I think you all will, you will find the same. So if you're feeling like, oh my gosh, I can't like get my life organized, that's the beauty of working with a virtual assistant who has giftings in those areas where they can help you with that.
Yes, for sure.
So don't feel like I'm not organized enough to have a virtual assistant. That's probably why you need one, you know?
Yes.
And even I feel like I am organized and sometimes I'm just not, it's still not to the level that I need to be. Okay. Okay. This was a good one. Okay. This person asked, does a virtual assistant require a steady amount of work coming in, like regular routine work coming in, or can you just provide things as you need help? And you kind of addressed this.
Yeah, I mean, I think it just depends on how you want to work. But with most of my clients, it's kind of just I touch base with them on and off, like continually throughout the week. And if they have things they need, awesome. If they don't, that's great too. There's some clients like Ashley and I mentioned, she kind of hands me things at the beginning of the week and I work through those as I have time, and then they're all done by a certain time frame. But I have other clients who just say, I need you to do this on Mondays, this on Tuesdays, this on Wednesdays, and I always know every week I'm doing those specific things for them. So it really is customizable up to whatever you need and what you want. So you just have to kind of think of what would work best for you. And even if you don't have an idea, just get started with someone and then kind of like work through it with them. I think if you have a great virtual assistant, they'll be able to see your needs ahead of time and kind of help you walk through that process of scheduling things out, so it's not so chaotic.
Yeah. That's been my experience with you. You've helped me to understand what it is that, what would be helpful. I remember, I had one specific idea of what I needed help with. And then with my blog getting hacked and quarantine happening in the same week, it totally shifted. And you were right there to be like, all right, well, what do you actually need now? Because what we talked about isn't what you're needing now.
Right.
And so if you work with someone who is, like emotionally intelligent, understanding of these things, they can really help you. So, how do you pay? I guess this would be for me or just in general. How do you pay your VA? I guess it depends on the person, how they invoice.
Yeah.
However they invoice you.
Like PayPal or whatever. I use PayPal. Yep. But it could be whatever, usually online, like digital. Yep. That's pretty much it.
Yeah. And with, I think this goes a little bit back to maybe the last question. If you're finding like, oh my gosh, I need more help, or, oh wow, this is awesome, I want to escalate this. When you're working with Kendra or any virtual assistant, they can be flexible with you if they have the capacity within their own workload. So that's another, consideration. I'm like, I need to lock in more of Kendra's time already. And then the last one. Okay. So this one, someone had asked about taxes. Like, what do you keep track of as a business owner who is contracting out with a virtual assistant? Just what you're paying your virtual assistant, and having the proof through invoicing that you're actually paying someone for a service. So that there's nothing like
nothing crazy. No.
Mm-mm.
Just like it's just an expense, like it would be any other business expense. Like you're just paying somebody for helping you. Keep track of that. If you have a tax professional, always ask, but pretty much just what you're paying them. So like a PayPal invoice or something like that, just to keep track of.
Yep. I just flag mine in Gmail, like under receipts.
Yes.
Like I do everything.
Perfect.
Lindsay's asking a question. How do you break down how much you charge by each task? Or is it by how long it takes to you? She says, obviously it will vary depending on what's involved. So are you charging like by project, or is it just like by hours that it takes? Is it?
Sure. So different VAs do different things. Like that's kind of like, you can have what you want. You just have to find the person. But for me personally, I charge monthly rates. So like 10 hours, 20 hours, 30 hours are all different pricing. And then if you if you like purchase the 10-hour package and you're like, oh shoot, I need
Mm-hmm.
way more time, like this is just not enough, then you can always upgrade to the next package or just add an hour or two. But there are project VAs, and those are mainly the ones who are more like laser focused on like a Pinterest manager, like we talked about.
Yeah.
So that would be someone who would say, oh, I'll do manage your Pinterest for the month, and it would just be the set project price, and hours wouldn't really come into it. But with mine, I kind of do a little bit of everything. So I just do a monthly fee for this many hours.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, awesome. And I think there was one, let me see, I'm going to scroll up. Okay, so Amy's asking about how does someone become a virtual assistant? She's got 10 plus years of executive assistant experience. So we're going to hit on all those questions in this next section, because I think we've kind of covered most of, if you all have extra questions, if you're watching by replay and you have another question that you're just have this burning desire to be answered, leave it in the comments, because like I said, I will be putting together a blog post with, with all of Kendra's contact information, with the questions, with the answers, all of that. So you'll have it in writing. So if you have another one that we can, get to, just leave it in the comments. And then let's go to the side of becoming a virtual assistant, because obviously in this community, we have online entrepreneurs who are doing lots of different things, looking to build multiple streams of income, really looking to see, okay, well, what are my, like, where's my place here? Like, where can my gifts be used? How can I monetize, my passions to serve and help? And how does that, and perhaps virtual assisting is like the perfect fit to meet someone's, experience and gifts and things like that. And so you're obviously a wealth of knowledge in this. So I'm going to give a caveat, because I'm going to look at the time and I feel, yes. So we're like close to 6:30, and granted we did start late, but I will kind of, spoiler alert, tell you, Kendra will be launching a course on literally all the things of how to become and be a kick butt virtual assistant in September. So if you don't get your questions answered, just know that that's coming, and that may be something that you want to look into. Is that like end of September, middle, or where are we?
End of September, definitely.
Okay.
So shooting for the end.
So let me ask you a few of these though. But again, like if you're, for those of you, because I know there were some, there's 5 or 6 individuals in our group that really wanted to know this information. So you guys, there's going to be more coming, but what are some first steps to get started?
Sure. So kind of figuring out what you want to help people with. So are you wanting to generally help people? Do you have specific tasks that you're really, really good at? Kind of narrowing that down is the first step. And then from there, just reaching out to people. That's how I first started, is just messaging friends that I knew that were business owners, even like brick and mortar business owners. I didn't just in the beginning focus on online entrepreneurs, which I do now. But in the beginning, I just messaged everybody I knew that had a business. And I was like, hey, I started this business and I would love to help you grow your business, kind of thing. Like, just don't be afraid to message people and just say, hey, I want to help you. Like, do you need help? I think just getting it out there is huge. Yeah.
And if you know, like to Amy, if you know you have that skill set and you're like, oh my gosh, like, and Kendra, same way, like, you're like, oh, I know, like, let me out your business. I can help you so much. Like, just feel confident in messaging people about that and reaching out, because there are so many people, like, now looking back, like, why did I not work with a virtual assistant like at least a year ago, if not way longer? Like, I can't imagine how much different things would look had I like considered that. And if someone reached out to me that I knew and offered, I probably would have done it. So if you feel like, oh my gosh, like, I would love to help this person, just feel confident in messaging them if that's something that you want to do.
Yeah, for sure.
Are there platforms that you can like put your like your resume on, like LinkedIn? Like, are there platforms for that?
I would definitely say Facebook groups are the way to go for that.
Okay.
Just know that you have to stand out. So make sure you have like some kind of portfolio or something. Even if you haven't worked for anyone yet, create some social media graphics, create examples of posts that you would do for someone. Just
Yeah.
get something, or take previous work experience and use that in your portfolio, just so you have something to show, like, hey, I'm awesome at this. I can help you.
Yeah.
Like,
For sure. For sure. Most, what are the most sought after jobs? Like what do virtual assistants love doing, or do they love working with?
okay, the most sought after. There's so many options. It's hard to
Depends.
like narrow. Yeah, it just depends on what you love to do.
Yeah.
Because there's really an option for everyone. If you love Pinterest, if you love Instagram. I mean, if you want to be a virtual assistant, you can really choose where you want to go with it. There's not one specific. I don't think. It just depends on what you want to do. And
Yeah.
that's the best thing about it, because you can do what you like. Like, you don't
Yeah.
have to do
Yes.
things you don't like.
Yeah. And work with who you want to work with. Like you
Yes,
can, yeah.
exactly.
Yeah. So those of you looking, like if you are really looking, if it's something that you're like, oh my gosh, like I never thought about doing this, like this is I have several friends who are virtual assistants or who have been, and they love it, or they've made connections with people. Like it's, it's a really, it's a great, it's a great job, especially nowadays. And especially if you want to be
Yes.
working from home, like,
Yes.
yeah.
Because you can make
Um,
it work around your schedule, whatever, however you
mhm.
want to make it work.
Yep. Okay. So to your point about standing out, someone had the question about, is there any recommendation you have on setting up your profile, like setting up your profile to catch people's attention? Do you have any tips for that?
Sure. So I think a big thing is kind of thinking about who you do want to work with, your ideal client, and
Hmm.
focusing all of your messaging to that specific person. I think so many people get lost in the thinking that they just want to get somebody so bad that they
Yeah.
try to market to everyone, and you just get lost. Like, I think
Hmm.
you need to know, like, I specifically love working with other moms who are entrepreneurs, because
Hmm.
they get me, they get like our
Yep.
schedules, they get all the things. And it's just so much nicer to work with people who get it. So I think if
Yes.
you know, just like she said my tagline earlier, if you know who you want to work with, make a tagline that goes along with that. Make your messaging for that person. I know, and also a lot of people want to make it about themselves. It's not about you. Make it about who you
Hmm.
want to work for. So just keep that in mind in
Yes.
everything you write.
Yeah. And you guys, like, we talk about that in here all the time. That's
Mm-hmm.
marketing. It's always, I don't care what you're doing, it's what's in it for them. It's what's in it
Yes.
for your ideal business partner you want to work with, your ideal customer, your ideal client, your ideal follower, audience member, reader. I don't care who it is. Your job is to explain and showcase what's in it for someone else. It is not about you. If you make it
Yes.
about you, you're going to
Mm-hmm.
repel everyone, not just the people who you're not meant to serve. So that should sound familiar up in here.
Yes.
Um, okay, so I have this question because sometimes I'm like, I don't even know how you do this. Like, how do you decide how many like jobs or clients you should take on at once? Like, what's your process? Do you like block out hours and then plug people in? Like, how does that look?
Yeah, sure. So what I do is, I know I have specific times where I can work, and
Mm-hmm.
specific times where I'm like, okay, there's just no way because there are kids everywhere. Um, so I take that into consideration. Like, this is how many hours I know I can devote. This is how many hours I can hire for. So like I said, I do
Mm-hmm.
hours, 10, 20, or 30 a month. So I take that in mind, like, okay, I can have this many clients. You can always find ways to expand beyond that. Um, so when you grow as a virtual assistant, yeah, you can only take on a certain number of personal clients, but then you can actually have a VA yourself, or outsource,
Mm-hmm.
or
Mm-hmm.
build out from that. This doesn't have to be your only thing either. Just like
Yep.
you talk about all the time, Ashley, is having multiple
Yep.
things going on. This doesn't have to be your only thing, but this can be a really good thing.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, so many people are looking at, how can I add, $500 a month, $1,000 a month. Maybe you don't want to like replace your income through virtual assisting, but if you have a couple of clients, I mean, you could do that. And if that was something that, yeah, I mean, to me, if those of you who are like, oh, this is something I'm interested in, please make sure that you check out. Kendra will be launching the course. I can tell you, I haven't seen the course, but I know how organized, detail oriented, like covers all the things you could ever possibly think of and more. Kendra is in her work. So I can only imagine that. I mean, if I were looking to become a virtual assistant, I would want to learn from Kendra because I see the quality of your work. So
Oh, thank you.
I'm really excited for that. We're about out of time, but if
Sure.
people want to either ask you further questions, or they are interested in connecting with you to work with you, or they're interested in your course, like they just want to keep up with you,
Sure.
where do they find you? What's the best way to contact you?
Yeah, the best way to follow along and see when the course launches or contact me about virtual assisting would be to head over to my business page, which is KTSocially, all one word. Or you can email me at ktsocially@outlook.com. So either one of those, but the Facebook page is probably just the easiest.
Yeah. Okay. Awesome. And Facebook page should be, if it's not, I will remember to do that. It should be tagged above in our description. I think that's pretty much all we have time for. But like I said, you guys, if you are watching the replay and you're like, oh no, I just need to know this one thing, ask the question in the comments below and we can make sure to kind of roll it into the blog post. And
sure.
yeah, gosh, Kendra, this was so awesome. I know I learned a lot. I'm sure our community members did. Thank you so much for your time.
You're welcome.
And for everything that you do. Like I said, I'll start crying if I really think about it, but especially in this season of life and motherhood and business and all the things, there would be no possible way that I could do like anything that I've been doing without your help. And just, yeah. So,
I'm so glad. You're welcome.
Yeah, no,
thank you.
It's really true, you guys. Working with a virtual assistant who gets it is a game changer, a total game changer. So if you've ever wondered, like, oh, like people will ask, oh, how do you do all the things? It's not just me doing all of them. That's why it's a lot of help, you know? So I'm glad that we brought this discussion to our community. Thank you so much, Kendra.
Yes.
You guys, Elevate Academy members, thank you all so much. If you got value, which I know if you're watching, especially through to the end, this was for you. Drop a hashtag value in the comments, and we'll see you guys soon. All right, bye. Thank you, Kendra.